Rain on the sidewalks in Toronto, a slump on the ice, and a global oil pinch that's being felt right at the gas pump. And later in the brief, the one detail in Washington's new oil waivers that could matter for Canadian prices faster than any pipeline debate. Toronto's looking at a mild, wet Tuesday. Expect rain, with temperatures around 6 degrees Celsius, topping out near 9. In sports, the Blue Jays had a clean split squad Sunday. 2 shutouts. One was a 5-0 win over Detroit, with Addison Barger driving in 3, including a solo home run. The other was a 1-0 win over Baltimore, with Jesus Sanchez bringing in the lone run and Cody Ponce throwing 3 hitless innings. On the basketball side, the Raptors got a boost from R.J. Barrett, 31 points against Dallas, and he crossed 8,000 career points, one of a short list of Canadian players to hit that mark. And on the hockey side, the Maple Leaf slide is now 7 straight losses, with the conversation, again, shifting to how pressure compounds in Toronto when results go the other way. Turning now to the bigger thread today, energy, why prices are moving, and what Canada is trying to do about it. What's happening is a squeeze on oil supply expectations tied to the Middle East war and disruption around the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's key choke points. Roughly a fifth of global oil flows through that strait, and reporting says it's closed because of the conflict. In Canada, the effect is already showing up at the pump, with sharp regional spikes reported, well into the 160s and 170s cents per liter in some provinces. Here's the key point. Oil prices don't have to run away for drivers to feel it. Even the risk of prolonged disruption can keep prices elevated, because refiners and traders price in uncertainty, and the duration matters. Analysts say if Hormuz reopens, gasoline prices can fall relatively quickly. If not, Canadians should brace for higher prices persisting. Now, into that context comes a move out of Washington. President Donald Trump says the United States is temporarily waiving certain oil-related sanctions, framing it as a way to ensure adequate supply and help curb prices. One piece of that is a 30-day waiver that would allow the sale of Russian oil that's been stranded at sea to India, explicitly aimed at easing pressure on the global market. And there's a second, more unusual detail. Trump described the sanction relief as lasting till the strait is up, tying the waivers to the security situation around the Strait of Hormuz. The risk here is volatility. If waivers are linked to a choke point reopening or to changes in the security picture, markets can swing on headlines, and that can filter down to Canadian fuel prices quickly, even if nothing changes at a Canadian refinery that day. This is the payoff to keep in mind. The fastest price moves for Canadians may come from geopolitics and temporary policy, not from long-build infrastructure. That brings us to the Canada angle, pipelines, and the long game on exports, a Canadian oil executive. Adam Waterous of Strathcona Resources says he supports a proposed project called the South Bow Pipeline. The idea is to repurpose parts of the old Keystone XL corridor, using a different U.S. route than the canceled project, while potentially reusing some already built pipe in Alberta. South Bow has launched a bidding process offering about 450,000 barrels per day of contracted capacity, moving from Hardisty, Alberta, to multiple U.S. delivery points, including Cushing, Oklahoma, and the U.S. Gulf Coast. Waterous didn't say whether his company will commit barrels yet, citing ongoing commercial talks. But he did lay out an ambitious production target, from about 125,000 barrels per day in 2026 to as much as 300,000 by 2035. Why this matters locally, even in Toronto, is that Canada still sends more than 90% of its oil exports to the United States. When global disruptions hit, Canada's where can we sell and how do we get it there question becomes immediate. Pipeline capacity affects pricing for producers, which affects investment, jobs, and government revenues, and the U.S. market's pull shapes what gets built next. At the same time, many Canadian shippers would still prefer additional Pacific access to complement Trans Mountain because that's the clearer route to Asian markets and true diversification. South Bow, in contrast, is still primarily about deeper access into U.S. hubs and the Gulf Coast. One more Canada-wide political note before we wrap. Voting is now open in the federal NDP leadership race, with ballots due by March 28th, and the result expected March 29th. Fundraising filings show Avi Lewis well ahead so far, and Prime Minister Mark Carney has called 3 simultaneous by-elections, including 2 Toronto ridings expected to stay Liberal, and a tighter contest in Terrebonne after a 1-vote result was voided due to a mail-in ballot envelope misprint. The final piece to watch today is timing. On energy, the next signal is whether disruption around the Strait of Hormuz eases or drags on, and whether the U.S. extends or changes those short-term waivers after the 30-day window. On the Canadian side, watch whether shippers actually commit volumes to South Bow, because that's what turns a proposal into a project. That's the brief for Tuesday, March 10th.